Many of you came to me and you said, David, you've got to do more of these interviews with the crazy right-wing QAnon types. And so my colleague John came up with a list of some of the wackiest candidates and started reaching out to them. The first one we had scheduled for last week, the woman canceled. Too bad. But now we've done an interview. I am going to, this is not going to be on our podcast until next week. It's not going to be anywhere for a while. I am going to preview the interview with you right now. Okay? Do people want to see this? I think it's completely insane, this interview. Do you email to get a free membership? No. Do not email. Do not email about a free membership. All right. Let's just get right into it. Let's just, here we go. Okay? Speaking with a Republican congressional candidate named Darlene Swaffar, and I think this is going to be very, very interesting for our audience. Darlene is a small business owner and is running for Congress in Florida's 22nd district. Darlene, I really appreciate you coming on today.
Thank you, David. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and it's, I'm always interested in learning more about different candidates, their ideas, whether there might be, my audience is on the left, and it's always interesting to see where there might be opportunities to sort of bridge divides and work together and all of these different types of things. So let's kind of contextualize your candidacy a little bit. If I understand correctly, Michael Flynn and Roger Stone have both endorsed you. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And a few hours before our interview, you posted a picture of yourself with the former President Donald Trump, and you said it was wonderful to meet my president. Just as a sort of like gut check, right? Who's the current president of the United States?
I don't know. That's debatable. Some people feel that we had a stolen election.
Uh-oh. First question is, who's the president? We're already, I mean, she said 5 words and we're already off the rails.
And that's an illegitimate president currently serving. I have my own thoughts on that, but if you look back in the last 1 year and several months, where are we as a country? I mean, we went from being energy independent to now purchasing oil from Russia and negotiating.
Guys, is the question, who is the president, considered a gotcha question?
Oil with Venezuela. We went from having very low inflation to having very high inflation. We got back into the Paris Accord, even though we are very responsibly a global citizen on our energy consumption.
Well, let's get to that. But Darlene, I want to hold you to, who's the current president?
Well, I don't believe that the current president is a legitimate president, and we'll leave it at that.
Is Joe Biden currently the president, even if you think he's illegitimate? Is he the president?
I don't believe he is. Okay. I don't believe that is the current legitimate president.
Can you guys imagine, huh? We've got a sick country, guys. And who is the current legitimate president?
I don't believe we have a current legitimate president.
Wow. So in a sense, there's no president of the U.S. right now.
I guess that's your interpretation of what I said.
Are we liking this so far, guys? I mean, I can cut it or we can keep going if you guys want. It's pretty wild. I'm not going to lie. People say keep going. Okay. All right, let's keep going.
But okay.
Well, you tell me, I mean, is there a president right now, I guess?
Well, I'd rather not answer that.
Can you imagine preferring not to answer whether there is currently a president? It's insane.
That, because I kind of feel like you're leading down an area of controversy.
Yeah, I'm goading her into saying something crazy with the question, is there currently a president?
That we don't have to go.
Okay, interesting. Let's talk about the energy independence thing, just to pick one thing. And so this, I think, will give my audience a lot of kind of insights into your campaign. Now, I'm going to warn you guys, we talk about oil and gas for about 8 minutes, and it gets really bad, really, really bad. So if you're allergic to cringe, I'm just warning you guys, you may want to go. The United States in 2020 which was Donald Trump's last year in office, produced as much oil as we used. And I think that's what you're signaling when you talk about being energy independent. We used a certain amount of oil and we produced an amount that matched that. And in hey, by the way, I have to take issue. There's one person on Twitch saying that it's an idiotic line of questioning for me to ask her that whether there is guys, it's monumentally idiotic to be a candidate and to be unable to say if there is a president and who it is. I'm sorry, I don't agree with that. When I see insanity, I explore it further. So the fact that she's unable to answer is the idiotic part. Okay, let's continue. 2021, the same thing happened. We produced as much oil as we used. So can you tell me on what basis you say that we are no longer energy independent under Joe Biden?
Well, actually, if you look at the graph of how much oil we've purchased from Russia, it's significantly more than what we were producing for ourselves. I mean, that graph was well published, and I'm happy to email that to you. But that is an inaccurate statement that you just shared. It doesn't matter how much oil we consume, we can either produce our own oil and build back our reserves, which is what President Trump did, or deplete our oil reserves and start purchasing oil from other countries, which is evident in the price of gas today. I mean, it was under $2 a gallon a year and 3 months ago. And what are we at now? $4, $5, in some cases $6 or $7. That is your evidence.
Let's get back to gas prices. And I want to really, with you, I love the clarity of the conversation where let's agree to first talk oil and then we'll talk gas. So did you know that the US for decades has purchased oil from foreign countries? So under Trump, even though we produced as much oil as we used, some of the oil we produce, we export. And to make up for that, we import some oil. And under both Trump and Biden, we imported oil from Russia. Did you know that?
Did you know that in the last 20 years, we had presidents in the United States that did not focus on energy independence and producing our own oil and offshored those opportunities to other countries? Did you know that?
Well, but that's not an answer to my question, is it?
That is an answer, because it's not about the Trump presidency. What Trump did was create energy independence to the point where we were exporting oil.
Okay.
That's not what happened in previous presidential administrations.
But you criticize Joe Biden for importing oil from Russia.
It lies to the Obama administration, it lies to the Clinton administration, it lies to the Bush administration. It was both Democrat and Republican.
This escalates significantly. I'm just warning everybody. Like we're still going down the hill at a very fast rate of speed here. You're going to see where this goes.
Presidents that did not look out for the interest of American families. And what Trump did was put American families first. We have the capability to farm our own reserves from gas, coal, and gas.
But Darlene, if we can,
I'm talking about,
if we can, Darlene, I really want to take it one issue at a time. I want to take it one issue at a time.
Sure.
Will you concede that in both 2020 and 2021, U.S. oil production exceeded consumption? Will you concede that? And then we'll get to the disagreement. Will you concede that?
Actually, it's not a concession. We did produce more oil than we consumed, but that's because we were able to export it and actually earn income back to the Treasury on what we exported. Now we're no longer in an exportation phase. We are purchasing oil from other countries because we're not producing enough oil.
Let's see. I don't want to belabor it, but at the same time, I want to make sure my audience understands where we're disagreeing. In both 2020 and 2021, let's see if we can even break it down more simply, Darlene. In 2020, the U.S. used a certain amount of oil. Will you agree that we used oil in 2020? Look, this is amazing. I have to keep we can't talk about the element. We first have to break it down into its component atoms. And that wasn't simple enough. So I've got to break it down into quarks and I mean, it's we have to keep going. It's like baby talk. Okay. So let's explore now.
Of course. Okay. We used oil.
Will you agree we used oil in 2021?
We did use oil in 2021.
Good. Will you agree that in both 2020 and 2021, forget for a second about exports, we produced more oil than we used in 2020 and 2021. Are we okay on that?
Right, but
hold on,
where's the
just
negative
we'll get to it. We'll get to it. But
Right.
we agree so far, right?
Right.
Okay. In both 2020 and 2021, we exported some oil.
Right.
Yes. And in 2020 and 2021, we imported some oil from Russia.
We imported very little oil. I don't have the chart in front of me.
But we did import some, right?
Right, and we had to produce more oil because our oil reserves were depleted under the Obama administration. Trump put back our oil reserves during his administration. Would you agree to that?
No, I don't agree to that. But let's get to that. We'll get to the disagreement. So far, Darlene, this is great because we're really going through the nuts and bolts. We both agree that in
You can tell how thrilled she is to be going through this sequentially.
2020 and 2021,
Right.
the U.S. produced more oil than we used. And we
Right.
agree that in 2020 and 2021, we exported some oil. And we
Right.
agree that in 20 and 21, we imported some oil from Russia. So what's the big criticism of what Biden did in 21? It sounds like it was exactly the same thing.
Well, actually, we didn't purchase oil to the extent in 2021 like we did in 2020 or 2019 or
Oh, so
20
Biden was more independent. He didn't purchase as much.
Biden purchased oil in 2021 that we did not as a country purchase.
All right, so at this point I realized there's nothing else. We've made the point. So now I move on pretty soon.
In 2020, 2019, 2018, and 2017.
Oh, he purchased more.
Look at the 4 years under Trump's administration. We did not purchase the oil from Russia to the extent of what Biden has done in 2021.
Okay.
That is fact.
Okay. All right. Let's talk a little about gas prices. Who's responsible for high global gas prices right now?
Who's responsible for high global gas prices? If we are producing our own oil, we can control the market behind the prices.
Mm-hmm.
That's economics 101.
Okay. But so right now, would you agree that gas prices are high in the United States?
They are extremely high.
Okay.
My brother is a truck driver with his own rig.
Okay.
It costs him over $1,000 to fill his truck with gas.
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay.
what does that equate to? He's going to have a higher cost for logistics to transport goods.
Got it.
That's going to translate to higher prices of cost of goods sold.
Absolutely.
Then higher prices of retail prices. And then if you're purchasing something that costs more today than it did yesterday, then you're paying higher sales tax for it.
Absolutely.
So at the end of the day, we are all paying for more based on the decisions of the current administration.
Let's wait. So we agree gas prices are high in the US. Do you agree gas prices are high in France right now?
Well, France doesn't produce their own oil.
But that wasn't my question, Darlene, is do you agree that gas prices are high in France right now?
They're not producing oil. They're at the mercy of supply and demand of countries they can purchase oil from.
Fine. But my
Okay.
question is, do you agree gas prices are high in France right now?
They're high everywhere all over the world.
Beautiful. So we can even skip that part.
Okay?
Is Joe Biden responsible for that?
Absolutely 100%.
How?
Why did he stop production of the Keystone Pipeline? Why are we not producing the same level of oil that we did during the Trump administration?
Okay.
There's a zero excuse on why we can't produce our own oil.
Hold on a second, though, Darlene. Let's take it a step at a time now because we want to be clear. Keystone XL pipeline. You know that Keystone XL phase 4. Well, I guess let's back up. Keystone XL is 4 phases.
Right.
3 of the phases have been up and running for years. The 4th is what we're now talking about. Agree so far?
Right.
Agree
but
so
that
far.
was 10,000 jobs.
But hold on a
lost.
second. Hold on a second.
Not that.
Wait a sec, Darlene. Wait a second.
Okay.
Do you agree that phase 4 of Keystone XL was not active when Trump was president? Trump wanted to do
active.
construction, but it wasn't active.
No, of course they weren't producing oil.
Beautiful.
They were not flowing the oil through that pipeline.
Beautiful.
That's true.
Agreed 100%.
Right.
Do you agree that the pipeline is a method of transporting oil, not producing it?
that is a method of transporting oil, but that also reduces the cost of supply and demand as well.
How?
So you have to factor that in. What do you mean how? If they can get the oil to certain markets within the United States more efficiently, that's going to reduce the cost of production.
Okay.
And transporting, correct?
Your economics 101 is a big thing for you, right? Okay. Yes. Do you know how much global oil production would go up if Keystone XL Phase 4 was completed?
How much it would go up in what respect? Give an example.
Percentage-wise. So if right now we are at what we would call 100%, right now the status quo is 100%. Right. If Keystone XL Phase 4 goes live, how much does oil production globally go up?
I don't have the answer to that. But
it's 1%.
Well, I don't know if that's your fact, and I don't think that fact is accurate.
No, facts are facts. Facts are not opinions. A fact is a fact. Right. It would go up 1%.
So show me the evidence behind that fact, because I have not heard that it would only be 1%. I actually think that's radical liberal facts, and people assume that those are facts. So share with us, what is your fact?
I actually may have overstated it. It might be that U.S. production would go up. I said global would go up 1%. I think that's even overstating it. I think it might only be U.S. production, but it didn't matter at this point.
Behind it's only being 1%.
So
impact
everybody from the NRDC to, I mean, it's, whoever you want to cite, we're talking about a 1% increase globally. That won't make a gas price difference. You know that, Darlene, economics 101.
And actually, I don't believe in that 1%. I believe that's the narrative that they probably want everyone to kind of run with.
Okay.
So I find it hard to believe that a pipeline would only produce 1% of the world's
Pipelines don't actually produce anything. They're just transport methods. It would allow the transport of 1% more oil.
Right.
You just don't believe it.
Well, share the facts with your audience, share it with me, and then we can analyze it. How's that?
Beautiful. Okay. What do you think the top tax rate should be?
The top tax rate? I believe as citizens we're double, triple, and quadruple taxed. Okay. So I think right now the federal.
Why does no one ever have answers to these things? It's like if you came to me and you said, David, sir, you're running. What should the top tax rate be? I would be like, I don't know. I think the top tax rate should probably be about 55%, and it would start on incomes above, I don't know, 5 million. I mean, like I would be immediately in the ballpark, and I'm not even running for anything. She's running for something.
Tax is in the 33 percentile when you add everything together.
What do you mean percentile?
Well, when you're looking at how you do your taxes, right?
Yep.
It's around 30+% that comes out of your income in terms of taxes, state, federal, county, any local taxes, when you add all that up together.
Well, it depends. People think this is not a candidate for local office, guys. She's running in the 22nd congressional district in Florida. If she's endorsed by Michael Flynn and Roger Stone and was just photographed with Trump, this is one of their best people. This is not some random local politician. What state you live in, how much you make, and a lot of things, right?
Correct. I was an accounting and finance major. I did my taxes for many years. So it's around that bracket.
Guys, she did her own taxes for many years.
So you add Medicare tax, you add all the different taxes, about that much. And then on top of that, you have sales tax. And then on top of that, you have gas tax. And then, if you smoke, there's a cigarette tax. And then, when you die, there's taxes, everything. There's taxes on everything. Okay. So, and then when you die, there's an estate tax. It's 35%.
If you have more than $10.5 million.
No.
This may be the best part of the interview. Okay. Everybody get the popcorn.
Actually, it's less than that. Yeah.
No, it's 10.5 million. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's less than that.
What do you think it is?
Well, there's a death tax of, if I die tomorrow, before my son could collect any assets, there's a death tax.
Did you know that starts at 11? That starts at 11. Your first $11 million. There's no federal estate tax.
There's a death tax.
No.
Yes.
Where'd you get
that? There's a death tax that everybody goes through when you die and you leave your assets to your heirs.
Right.
that's the tax that is going to be assessed by the government before your heirs get any money.
But this is this is wild, Darlene. You're a candidate, and it sounds like you don't know that the first $11.7 million of one's estate doesn't, you only pay tax after you leave 11.7 million to your heirs. You didn't know that, did you?
If it's 11.7, how is it that because I deal with seniors all day long.
Okay.
I'm the Medicare lady. Okay.
Okay.
And I had a client that only had $250,000, and her estate was hit with a death tax before her children collected it. So how did that happen with her?
Maybe it was at the state level, I don't know. But federally, there's an 11.7 million. But hold on. There's your first 11.7 million, there's no tax federally.
Right, on the federal level. Okay.
But you didn't know that 2 minutes ago, right?
Right, but that's on the federal level.
Fair.
So I deal with seniors all day long.
Okay.
That's what I do for the last 11 years. And I've heard way too many. As a matter of fact, this is the biggest concern that seniors have brought to my attention.
Yep.
That they have to set up a trust, which costs $3,000 typically to set up, about $2,500 to $3,000.
Yeah.
So that they could try to protect their assets and not be subject to that death tax before they leave their children any money.
Now, wouldn't it be the right thing to do as someone advising seniors to let them know that their first 11.7 million are exempt?
Well, I'm not a tax advisor, so that's not up to me legally to share that information with them. I sell Medicare health insurance, so I'm not going to give advice that has nothing to do with my license.
I think that's responsible, Darlene. But back to the first question, let's focus in on the federal tax rate, because every state has different tax rates, different sales tax rates, et cetera. Federally speaking, what do you think the top tax rate should be?
I know that there were some recommendations where people said maybe we shouldn't have any more than 14 or 15% across the board.
Okay.
I would love to see lower taxes. I'm for less government and lower taxes. So that's part of the Republican platform. And I'd love to see everyone pay lower taxes. I think that we should have a much more efficiently run government.
Sure.
I think a lot of the 3-letter agencies and 4-letter agencies that we have on a national level should be brought back down to the state level. I think there's a lot of duplication of efforts. So when you look at those agencies and you look at the number of employees employed by those agencies and you eliminate that budget, that would be a completely different financial picture on how our government could be run more efficiently.
In terms of the tax rate, though, you would like to see the top federal rate go down to 14%?
I would like to see it less, yes.
Okay. And at what income would that top rate kick in?
I mean, if you think about it realistically, and I have different, look, I grew up poor. Okay, I'm a true Rax's success story. I run a very
Are these questions that difficult? Like, why can't she or so many of these people answer these questions? And I know people are like, well, who cares what she thinks? I mean, I'm interviewing her. The whole point is to figure out what she thinks and whether it's crazy.
Successful company, okay? And I don't think it's easy for anyone to live a very standard lifestyle if you're making under $100,000 a year. I just think that it's really challenging with how expensive rent is and mortgage is. I mean, and it's difficult for any single income household to survive. I mean, we're almost forced to have 2 incomes coming into the home in order to survive. So I would like to see the benchmark much higher than that, maybe above 250,000, maybe even more, maybe 400,000.
Maybe.
I mean, I have some strategies that I would like to implement. And this is to your point, because I know you want to stay on point, but it touches on taxes. Okay. So now the average American person that works a blue collar job or professional job, and they're under that, couple $100,000 a year mark, when they work overtime, if they're an hourly rate person, if they work overtime, why are they working overtime? They're working overtime to pay down their bills, pay down their student debt. They're working overtime to maybe save money to take their family on vacation. I would like to see the overtime pay not be taxed. I would like to see the income part of it still be counted when you are looking into getting a mortgage, for example, where they need to know what your income is in order to qualify you for a mortgage. So I still want the income to count towards, Social Security income, applying for a mortgage, applying for a loan to get a car.
Sure.
But the payroll taxes on the overtime pay, I would like to see that eliminated.
Darlene, that's a very interesting idea. That's a very interesting, I'll be honest, it's the most interesting idea you've presented so far, I would say, and it's not one that I've heard before, but that's a very, and I'm guessing that this would be for people earning under a certain amount, right? We're really targeting workers here.
Yeah, we're targeting workers that are hourly paid. But, if you think about it, if they had that portion that wasn't taxed, that additional income and revenue increases our overall spending. To me, that would even improve the economy. That would improve people's ability to eliminate their debt, to try to get ahead in a way. So, I would love to see that idea implemented. I also have other ideas with regards to reforming Medicare and improving solvency, because some experts are predicting that Medicare is going to be insolvent in about 2 to 3 years. Well,
that's such a big topic. Let's not dive into that right now, but at least that one idea you had, that's a very interesting idea. In the last few minutes we have, QAnon. In 2019, you wrote a lot of QAnon stuff on your Facebook page. You talked about how Q inspired you to run for Congress in 2020. Talk to me about QAnon. Have you taken a so-called QAnon oath?
I didn't write a lot of QAnon posts. That's inaccurate. I have a lot of friends that are, they call themselves digital soldiers.
Okay.
And I actually said that they inspired me to run for office, because to me, I feel that we as Americans, we need to learn the truth. And they say QAnon oath. There was no QAnon oath. It's the oath to protect the Constitution against enemies, foreign and domestic. So how do they attach a Q conspiracy idea behind taking the oath to defend your country? I actually find that insulting.
Okay.
And so, it was General Flynn that asked everyone to do that oath. And if you look at my oath, because I did do the oath, I also asked for God's protection and blessings over our country. That was the end of my oath, my so-called oath.
Got it.
But, I took that oath because my fifth and sixth grandfathers fought in the Revolutionary War, in the War of 1812, and my eighth great uncle is Benjamin Franklin. Well, what did Benjamin Franklin do when he signed the Declaration of Independence? He said, we either hang together or we hang separately, but we most assuredly will hang. So that's where the term where we go one, we go all came from. John F. Kennedy had that on his boat.
Okay.
President John F. Kennedy had that saying on his boat.
Can you imagine what's going on, guys? This woman is endorsed by Michael Flynn and Roger Stone and hung out with Trump yesterday.
So why people are attributing that to a conspiracy, that's lack of knowledge on everyone's part, and they're running away with that. And that's
so in other words, so you are not a believer in QAnon?
I've never said I was. That's all conspiracy related media trying to bash an America First candidate.
Well, this is why I want to ask you to write. So you're saying you do not believe or subscribe to QAnon?
No, I have friends that do.
Okay.
And I support anybody trying to find the truth.
Understood. That's that I think is very, very important to know.
Yes.
Okay, Darlene, listen, this has been incredibly illuminating, and I can't thank you enough. I think we've had a number of disagreements. You had the one very interesting idea there about non-taxable overtime hours. Very, very interesting. I can't tell you how much I appreciate you spending some time with us today.
Thank you. I appreciate that too. And I'd love to see the facts behind what you shared, 1%, how that's going to add to the oil supply. I know that's inaccurate, but we'd love to see the data on that.
When we publish this...
Maybe your sources are inaccurate and you don't know. So I'm going to look into it too, and whatever I find, I'm going to send it to you.
Please, Darlene, it's been an unfettered pleasure on our end. Okay, so that's that. I guess I have video of the oath that she took. Hold on, let me see here.
Everyone, here's my oath. I, Darlene Swaffar, candidate for U.S. House of Representatives for Florida District 22, do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, that I take this obligation freely, without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties of the office of which I'm about to enter. As a remnant soldier of God, I also swear to defend and protect our Judeo-Christian values. I will support our veterans, our seniors, and most importantly, our children, which are our future. I serve we the people with humble honor and respect. So help me God. At the signing of the Declaration of Independence in
So anyway, this WWG1 thing, that's a QAnon thing, right? Yeah. Wow. So listen, I mean, that was pretty bonkers, guys. And we did it. I don't know if people find those interesting, let me know and we can line up more of them. But it's really scary that these are people who, I mean, she has, I get it's sort of like a Biden blue district that she's running in, but it's not completely inconceivable that she might be able to win. So that's really, really wacky stuff.